So, welcome everybody to our weekly meditation, and already into February and fast approaching the season of Lent. I'm just picking up one or two ideas from Richard Raw, and the idea of paradox and holding the tension of things that where we think that something looks contradictory or impossible to hold two positions. The idea of paradox is something that keeps coming back to me anyway. Something that initially looks contradictory, but if looked at in a different way, is in fact deeply true. So holding that idea of paradox. Because I think it's true that very often in our spiritual development, we begin with what might be called a dualistic, right or wrong, black or white, either or thinking. And as we develop to a deeper, broader, wiser, loving way of seeing, this kind of, we realize that things aren't black and white. The contemplative mind, the non-dual mind, the mind of Christ, perhaps. One of my favourite hymns has always been, "May the mind of Christ my Saviour live in me from day to day, by his love and power controlling all I do and say." And so as we come into this space, this time that we've set aside, we'll settle ourselves, feel comfortable where we're sitting, just bring our attention to our bodies, closing our eyes if that helps, or lowering your gaze, or using the image on the screen, and taking a deep cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And in again, consciously filling the lungs, holding briefly and then releasing out. Going to pause after the in-breath and pause again after the out-breath. Bring your attention to different parts of the body which carries us each day and which we take so much for granted. Maybe notice anything with the feet, for example, planted as they are on the ground. Notice, become aware of that connection. The ground holding us standing on the ground, the feet. Just imagine and visualize those feet walking each day. Perhaps a little worn, perhaps a little calloused, but thankful for them. The legs, perhaps one or two aches. Just notice them, no judgment, just giving thanks. A way of moving our attention away from the mind as well. Moving up through the waist, The stomach, perhaps showing a few signs of age, but nevertheless thankful for that too. The arms, the hands which have held, embraced friends and family. Grateful for everything we've experienced, everything we've been able to touch and hold. And the neck. She's done such sterling work holding and supporting the head through our lives. And the face, eyes, ears, nose, all those senses. All that awareness of the outside world. Acknowledging each of these in turn. And perhaps an overall sense of awe at this physical body through which we interact and communicate. And so finally bring the attention again back to the breath. Consciously notice the rise of the abdomen, the belly as you breathe in, and the fall as we breathe out. If you've got a good imagination, perhaps imagine a balloon being inflated with each in-breath. And then deflated on the out-breath. Maybe choose a colour for that balloon. Notice it being blown up as you breathe in, emptying as you breathe out. Holding for a count of 2 after the in-breath. And again holding for 2 after the out-breath. And then finally associate a sense of calm with the in-breath. So breathing in calm. And breathing out any tension, any anxiety, letting that go with the out-breath. I was wondering in putting this together whether there's any parallel between that holding the breath and holding the tension of paradox, of not necessarily being able to find a resolution, able to live with that. And just one example of paradox. Next Sunday is racial justice. So a consideration of the paradox of violence and non-violence that we see particularly through the life and work of Martin Luther King, who used non-violence to bring long ignored racial tension and injustice to a wider audience. The time in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, when thousands of African Americans were arrested for marching against the segregation laws. They kept coming forward, marching even into the face of fire hoses. And one day, an apparent miracle happened. The white firemen put down their fire hoses and let the people march. And when that happened, segregation soon came to an end. Martin Luther King, in a famous letter, illustrated how a non-violent stance both creates and holds the tension of conflict, creatively opening opportunities for transformation. He wrote, "Non-violent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue, to so dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored." I just referred to the creation of tension as a part of the work of the non-violent resistor. I have earnestly worked and preached against violent tension, but there is a type of constructive non-violent tension that is necessary for growth. So the purpose of the direct action is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. I do wonder whether there is anything there that can help in the current situation in Gaza and Israel. How do we hold the paradox of asserting the right of one group to defend itself with the deaths of thousands upon thousands of women and children in another group, victims of extreme violence? How, I wonder, might a sort of non-violent direct action of Martin Luther King provide an alternative approach, even provide a solution where none has been possible for so many years? So in our first silence, having used that for relaxing, perhaps here our contemplation where we might pick up some of that thread, the paradox, the tension that Martin Luther King talks of. A creative tension, or perhaps seen also in the life of Jesus, discovering that to be human is to be non-violent, and being non-violent is to become, like Jesus, more fully human. So maybe there's a train of thought there to pick up and sit with in our next short period of silence. Or considering other paradoxes. Jesus himself, as we believe, human and divine. Mary, virgin and mother. God, one and three. Or maybe there's some paradoxes in your own life, things that seem impossible to resolve, and whether it's possible to just sit and hold those. Richard Rohr suggests that being open to this idea of holding is the very description of faith. Unfortunately, he says, faith has largely been assumed to be about believing things to be true or false, our old dualism, instead of giving people concrete practices so that they could themselves know how to open up. Can we move from a belief-based religion to a practice-based religion, rather than the sequence perhaps being believing, belonging, behaving? Perhaps we need to belong first, leading to change in behaviour. As always, Rohr suggests that contemplative practice is needed to loosen our attachment to certainty, to retrain our minds, to understand and welcome the wisdom of paradox. And so, as always, so often we come back to our idea of contemplative prayer, being largely just being present, holding the tension, whatever that may be, instead of even talking it through, just offering the moment to God and holding it instead of fixing it by words and ideas. And so we move to our longer period of silence. Use the music of Salt of the Sound to take us there. And some words: far beyond what I can see, I am held. That idea of us holding, but us being held. I am held and I am free. Whatever lies beyond these years, I'll be here in sanctuary. And so into our silence, either just using our breath, following a train of thought, holding a paradox, or walking down that imaginary inner staircase to our heart center, knowing that we are held. So as we gently come out of our silence, I was taking a conscious deeper breath, becoming conscious of our surroundings. A few closing words. Conscious that we are held. Blessed to me the ground that is beneath me. Blessed to me the sky that is above me. Blessed to me the friends who are around me. Blessed to me the love of the three, deep within me and encircling me.